Everybody has their favorite rides and animatronics, and it's always sad to see them go. So in honor of these fallen heroes, we have compiled almost every retired Disney animatronic that we have ever talked about. Plus, I will be giving you some updates about some of them too. Take it away, Will.
The three-headed troll, Melstrom. Norwegian Pavilion was the last to be opened at Epcot, and for this pavilion, a new ride was being planned. This ride was called Sea Venture and was supposed to be a journey through mythical lands and trolls that would finish with a rainbow bridge to Valhalla. Norwegian sponsors wanted something different, so the ride changed and became Melstrom. The ride opened on July 5th, 1988, and was a mix of flume and dark ride. It took guests through mythological scenes of Norwegian history. We first boarded the boats that took us to the lift hill. Here, a voice could be heard.
Those who seek the spirit of Norway face peril and adventure, but more often find beauty and charm.
At the top of the hill, we could see Odin hovering above. The ride took us through scenes that showed us seafarers and maritime villages depicting a mythological version of Norway's Viking days. Then, we encountered a type of swamp where we could come face to face with two very upset trolls. One of these was a large three-headed troll that became angered by our intrusion and proclaimed that we had entered troll country. He then proceeded to cast a spell on the boat and banishing us from the swamp by moving our boat backwards over the falls. The boat then floats past scenes of polar bears and live trees before stopping on the edge of a waterfall. Then it started moving forward again and descending down a 28-foot drop into a model of the North Sea. And after passing extremely close to an oil rig, the boat made its final stop in the loading deck once again. On September 12, 2014, it was announced that this ride would be replaced by Frozen Ever After, a new attraction based on Frozen. The new ride has the same track, but this time we go through scenes telling the story of Anna and Elsa. This ride had lots of cool animatronics, but the most impressive was the three-headed troll. Sadly, nobody knows what happened to it. It was probably repurposed in some way or thrown away.
Thank you very much to all our Patreons. My construction is nearing completion. If you want to know more about me and the world of animatronics, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you haven't already, consider joining our Patreon for incredible rewards.
Aladar, Discovery River Boats. When Animal Kingdom was being planned, Beastly Kingdom was one of the areas that were supposed to open. This area would be where we could find all types of mythological creatures, like dragons, unicorns, and much more. Sadly, the area was postponed and then cancelled. But when Animal Kingdom was being announced, the advertisement showed these mythological animals that would not appear anywhere in the park. So Imagineers knew that something had to be done. They took a type of transportation they had developed to go around the park and tried to turn it into a ride with the small budget they were given. This ride was called Discovery River Boats, and it would take guests from Asia to the Safari Village and back. It was decided that in this ride there would be a dragon, unicorn, and a kraken among other animals. But again, the cost of the park kept going higher and higher, and there was only money enough to build the dragon. While this was being developed, the dinosaur movie was being developed too. Michael Eisner had the great idea of taking the money that was meant for the dragon and building an enormous Aladar animatronic. The animatronic was really impressive, but it was definitely not what was expected from this made-up attraction. When the attraction opened, guests did not like it at all. And so, the ride was changed into Discovery River Taxis before closing forever on August 21st, 1999. 10 months before the dinosaur movie even came out. The animatronic was taken to the Studio Tram Tour Behind the Magic at Walt Disney Studios Park, in Paris, where it was displayed for guests to see.
Since then, the Studio Tram Tour closed on January 5th, 2020, and Cars Road Trip replaced it. The majority of the attraction was demolished with a small portion, including Catastrophe Canyon having been rethemed around cars.
Dreamfinder, Journey into Imagination. The opening of Epcot brought to Walt Disney World a new, unusual idea. A Disney park that did not focus on the fairy tale part of the world and did not bring any Disney characters to life. Instead, Epcot invented its own lovable characters.
Hello there, I'm the Dreamfinder, and my little purple friend here is a figment of my imagination.
Figment, for sure.
You know,
The Imagination Pavilion contained the charming dark ride Journey into Imagination, where guests rode along with the musical Dreamfinder, a kindly dreamy inventor, and his parrot-sized purple dragon, Figment. This ride was beautiful. It followed Dreamfinder and Figment through a musical adventure of arts, literature, entertainment, and music. One Little Spark. The famous Sherman Brothers song was featured throughout the ride, and it talked about how just a little bit of inspiration could create an entire world of imagination. During the ride, the animatronic Dreamfinder could be seen collecting sparks and ideas with his flying machine. He created Figment from the sparks and invited us to his workshop at the Dreamsport and the realms of imagination. Sadly, Disney decided to unite the entire Imagination Pavilion in one theme, and they chose to retheme the dark ride to match the film in the pavilion's 3D theater, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. The ride was renamed Journey into Your Imagination. Its track was cut in half, Figment made a single cameo, and Dreamfinder was completely gone. This version of the ride received so much criticism from the public that it only survived for 2 years before it was replaced. It reopened as Journey into Imagination with Figment, its current incarnation. Figment received a much larger role this time around, appearing in every single show scene. The famous theme tune of the original ride, One Little Spark, was also back, but Dreamfinder is still nowhere to be found. Looking back at Tomorrow Robots, Horizons.
Step into the future in Epcot Center's newest adventure.
Horizons was an amazing attraction in Future World at Epcot that took us into the future of what Earth might look like based on scientific advancements. It opened on October 1st, 1983. While Horizons is beloved for its optimistic view of our potential futures, it also featured a whimsical looking back at tomorrow sequence that offered a glimpse at past visions and views of yesterday's future. As the attraction's narrator said, people have been dreaming about the future for centuries. And in this sequence, we explored scenes of Jules Verne's science fiction adventures and retro-futuristic vehicles, such as blimps and zeppelins. Conceived in mind by French illustrator and novelist Albert Robida. These aren't the only past visions that we could marvel at. In an Art Deco-themed sequence, guests could glimpse at a smug robot butler, with a vacuum cleaner and feather duster in hand, and giggle at the multi-armed robotic chef making a mess of the kitchen. These robots have become beloved icons for Horizons, occasionally featured on park merchandise and even popping up in other Disney attractions. On January 9th, 1999, Horizon closed due to a sinkhole beneath the building. The building stood unoccupied for well over a year as Disney decided between either relaunching the attraction or demolishing the building and creating a new attraction in its place. It was decided to build a new cutting-edge outer space theme attraction.
In fact, it's going to be so big that the current building won't hold it. We're building a brand new pavilion to hold this great new attraction.
So, the Horizons building was slowly torn down in July 2000. The demolition of the building marked the first time in Disney history that an entire ride building had to be demolished in preparation for a new attraction. Construction on Mission Space began in late 2000, and the attraction opened in 2003. According to ImagineeringDisney.com, most of the animatronics are all piled up and abandoned under the Carousel of Progress. Buzzy, Cranium Command.
Hey, you gold bricks! This ain't a spectator sport! Where do you think you are, Disney World? Get your strollers in line and hustle on the double!
The Wonders of Life Pavilion was opened on October 19, 1989. This pavilion was dedicated to life, health, and the human body. It featured 2 attractions. Body Wars, a motion simulator ride that took us on a mission to study the effects of the white blood cells on a splinter inside the left index finger of a volunteer. And Cranium Command. The show was a humorous presentation of the importance of the human brain. Guests became Cranium Commandos and were sent on a mission into the human brain. It starred Buzzy, a tiny little soldier who had been tasked with keeping a 12-year-old boy out of trouble by entering his cranium. After a pre-show briefing, guests entered the theater, which was designed to represent the inside of a human head. The outside world was seen through a pair of screens designed to mimic the eyes. Buzzy himself led the mission in audio animatronic form. In January 2007, the Wonders of Life Pavilion was closed for good, without any explanation, and the attractions were left intact and abandoned. The animatronics remained in the ride until December of 2018, when reports of the Buzzy animatronic being stolen were posted. People went crazy with this news all around. On December 28, 2018, an incident report from the Orange County Sheriff's Office surfaced, saying that Buzzy's personal items were stolen, not the animatronic itself. These items include the green military-style hat and headset, red bomber jacket, and his pair of custom-made rubber hands. This makes a lot more sense because who would be able to steal a whole animatronic? But who knows?
Well, here's an update with the whole story. In late 2018, the rumors began saying that the Buzzy animatronic had been stolen. These rumors were begun by Patrick Spikes, a former Disney cast member. People initially thought that Disney had taken the animatronic to store it at the Disney archives, but this didn't seem possible, because other explorers pointed out that the hydraulic lines bolting Buzzy to his seat had been cut and leaked oil onto the floor, and this did not seem like a professional removal. An Orange County police report revealed that Buzzy's clothes had indeed been missing for some time before the animatronic was missing. Disney began taking a look at Spikes, who had actually now posted a rather disturbing image of what appeared to be Buzzy's severed face, and 5 days later he was arrested. He was charged with stealing several Disney props and signs, and it was discovered that he had sold Buzzy's clothes to NBA player Robin Lopez, who wasn't aware that they were stolen and returned them to Disney once he realized.
The Horned King, Cinderella Castle Mystery Tour. The Cinderella Castle Mystery Tour opened at Tokyo Disneyland on July 11th, 1986. It was a walkthrough attraction inside the castle that was supposed to take us through a tour of the castle's rooms, like the gallery, ballroom, tower, and more. The tour took us to the gallery, where paintings of Cinderella, Pinocchio, Aurora, Snow White, and Taryn hung on the walls. The cast members started talking about Disney's heroes and heroines when all of a sudden, the magic mirror appeared. He felt insulted by the villains being put down, and he explained that no hero would be complete without a villain. He turned the paintings showing the heroines and heroes to paintings showing their respective villain. Then he opened the door to a dark passage where we would be challenged to see how strong we were against the forces of evil. Along this tour, we encountered many scenes featuring famous Disney villains like Chernabog and Maleficent. Then we would enter a room with tapestries showing the legend of the Black Cauldron. The magic mirror would appear again, letting us know that our last challenge would be in the next room. We enter the final room where we had to defeat the Horned King. A guest was chosen as a brave representative to carry the Sword of Light against the Horned King. The huge animatronic appeared and started to awake the cauldron while threatening to kill us and use it to make us join his army. Thankfully, we have the Sword of Light, and the guest holding it defeats the Horned King. This was one of the more sophisticated figures in existence at the time, and it's really sad to say the attraction closed down on April 5th, 2006. What do you think happened to the animatronic after the ride closed down? Wicked Witch, the Great Movie Ride. The Great Movie Ride was originally planned to be an entirely new pavilion for Epcot called Great Moments at the Movies, but it was then decided that a new park would be built with this attraction as its centerpiece.
First came the Magic Kingdom, then the incredible Epcot Center. Now comes the new Disney MGM Studios theme park.
Disney's MGM Studios opened on May 1st, 1989, and the Great Movie Ride opened with it. This dark ride took us through many scenes of iconic Hollywood movies. The first part was musicals, where we could find scenes of movies like Footlight Parade, Singing in the Rain, and Mary Poppins. Next came the gangster films, where we went through a scene of the movie Public Enemy. Here, the second cart was stopped while the first one moves on to the next scene. While the cart was stopped at the red light, a cast member showed up dressed like a gangster and got involved in a shootout with rival mobsters. They chased away the tour guide and hijacked the ride vehicle. When the gangster noticed the red light, they shot it out and made their getaway aboard the ride vehicle. The next scene would be the western scene where we could find Clint Eastwood and John Wayne. If the ride vehicle was already being driven by the gangster, it continued past a shootout between the town sheriff and a bank robber. But if this was not the case, a cast member dressed as the bank robber would come out of the bank. After getting into a shootout with the town sheriff and chasing the tour guide away, the bandit blew up the town bank with dynamite and hijacked the ride vehicle. We continued the ride through many scenes like Alien, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Tarzan the Ape Man, Casablanca, and Fantasia, until we reached Munchkinland. Here, the Munchkins started to appear from various places and sang along as they welcomed us to their home. Suddenly, smoke rose up from the ground and an animatronic Wicked Witch of the West appeared asking who has killed her sister.
Kill my sister. Who killed the Witch of the East? Was it you?
No, that was an accident. I didn't even kill anybody.
This animatronic was one of the only animatronics that was replaced through the history of the ride. It was replaced by another with a newer design that used Sarcos technology. This new tech was capable of giving animatronics a great deal more movement possibilities than the original limited animation figure designs. As a result, The Wicked Witch became one of the most lifelike and scary of all the attraction. When the Wizard of Oz scene came to an end, the vehicles entered a large theater where a 3-minute montage of classic film moments was shown, and that was the end. On July 15, 2017, Disney announced that the attraction would close and be replaced with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. The ride closed on August 13, 2017. The animatronics will probably be stored in the Walt Disney Archives, where many animatronics are displayed on rotation every few months. Skippy, Extraterrestrial Encounter, and Stitch's Great Escape. We've talked about this ride endlessly, but it contained one of the most beloved animatronics ever. Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter opened on June 20th, 1995, as part of a much-needed Tomorrowland refurbishment at Magic Kingdom.
And while you're in the neighborhood, check out the new Tomorrowland, an entirely new land filled with countless amazing adventures.
This ride was terrifying. It had warnings all around to let guests know that it was not for the faint of heart. Still, Imagineers knew that many people would not pay attention to these warnings, so they decided to plan a pretty disturbing pre-show to let guests know how seriously they should take the warnings. During the attraction, we were supposed to see a demonstration of new technology from an alien corporation known as XS Tech. This new technology consisted of a teleportation tube that could teleport aliens and people. Initially, a guest would be teleported to the alien's planet, but an employee gets restless and decides that he wants to come to us, so he will be teleported to the chamber. But something goes wrong, and a towering, winged, and carnivorous alien was beamed into the tube by mistake. He escapes, and madness ensues. But before entering the ride, we get a small peek at how the technology is supposed to work. Here we meet an XS robot known as Simulated Intelligence Robotics, or SIR for short. He was supposed to demonstrate how easily and completely painless the teleportation technology was. And for this, he would use a cute little alien called Skippy. Skippy was supposed to be teleported from one side of the room to the other, but as you may know, something goes terribly wrong. Skippy appears on the other side of the room alright, but he is burnt to a crisp, wailing and in pain. This should have been warning enough for people entering the attraction, but they didn't pay any attention, and sadly, because of many complaints, the ride was closed on October 12, 2003, and it was replaced by Stitch's Great Escape. This new version would reuse both Skippy animatronics, as prisoners. Now that Stitch's Great Escape has been closed forever, Skippy has sadly been retired. Ellen, Ellen's Energy Adventure.
Hi, and welcome to the Universe of Energy.
The Universe of Energy was a pavilion located in Future World at Epcot. In 1996, a new attraction opened at the pavilion. It starred Ellen DeGeneres and Bill Nye the Science Guy, and it took a lighthearted look at the various energy resources, how energy was produced, and the search for new energy resources. In particular, it focused on the origins of fossil fuels such as petroleum, coal, and natural gas. It also mentioned renewable sources such as solar and hydroelectric power. The attraction started with a video of Ellen telling us all about a dream she had. She fell asleep and dreamt that she was on Jeopardy, competing with her old college roommate, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and Einstein. Ellen was losing, and at the end of round 1, Bill Nye appeared and offered to teach her about energy during the commercial. First, Bill took Ellen to witness the Big Bang and the formation of the Earth. Then they ended up in a prehistoric jungle, where he explained how fossil fuels were formed. After that, we entered the primeval diorama, where the seating area broke apart into 6 multi-passenger vehicles that took us on a long journey through the jungle where we could find many dinosaurs. Here is where we found the Ellen animatronic also. She could be seen standing near a tidal pool fighting off an Elasmosaurus with a tree branch. After the diorama, we entered another theater where Bill took Ellen on an in-depth look at various current and future energy resources across the United States. And then, we went back to the first theater where the last film showed us how Ellen went back into the game and used her new knowledge to become the Jeopardy champion. This attraction closed down in August 2018. And as soon as Ellen heard the attraction was closing down, she joked that she would love for the robot to host her show when she isn't feeling well, and when she is feeling well also. So she jokingly asked Disney to give the animatronic back.
But if anyone from Disney is watching, I want my robot back. So I have many, many uses for it. It can host my show when I'm not feeling well. It can host my show when I am feeling well.
What she didn't seem to realize is that her animatronic had been removed back in 2014. Sources say that the dinosaur that she was fighting stopped working and was removed, so Ellen looked like she was fighting with the air. Eventually, her animatronic was also removed. The animatronic was either repurposed or destroyed, but the skin and the clothes were saved, and both were bought by a Disney collector. And as a prank, the writers on Ellen's show asked to borrow the remains of the animatronic and presented them to her on her birthday.
this real? That is so offensive. That is like
Tom Morrow, Innoventions.
Discover firsthand the positive ways today's technology shapes our lives. After exploring Innoventions, experience the 3D Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, filled with big surprises. So come and see the new Tomorrowland, open now, only at Disneyland.
Innoventions was open on July 3rd, 1998. This attraction opened as part of the new Tomorrowland that we got, instead of Tomorrowland 2055. The building where Innoventions used to be housed the Carousel of Progress from 1967 to 1973, and then America Sings from 1974 to 1988. In this attraction, we could visit what would be the dream home, which introduced us to the then newly available technology from companies like Microsoft, HP, and Taylor Morrison that would enhance our lives in the near future. It had many high-tech, high-touch opportunities, where we could experience technology in an entertaining, low-risk environment. In the entrance, there were some monitors where Tom Morrow, the mayor of Tomorrowland, would welcome us to his land and show us some footage of technology over the years. The doors opened, and soon as we stepped inside, we would see a full-size Tom. He would explain Innoventions in a comedic style, chat for a bit, and then sing the famous Sherman Brothers song, "There's a great big beautiful tomorrow," from Carousel of Progress.
And a great big beautiful tomorrow, 'cause tomorrow's happening today.
Back in 2012, the Tom Morrow animatronic was removed from its place, and it was no longer part of the attraction. On March 31st, 2015, the attraction closed down and the building was redesigned. It opened on November 16th, 2015 as the Tomorrowland Expo Center, where the second floor was used to host Superhero HQ, featuring meet and greets with Marvel characters Thor Odinson and Spider-Man, and an exhibit featuring Iron Man's suits based off the film, until it closed in April 2016. And the first floor still hosts Star Wars Launch Bay, where we can find special sneak peeks, behind the scenes, merchandise, and many meet and greets, like Kylo Ren, Rey, and Darth Vader. Supposedly, the remains of Tom Morrow ended up across the street. Where? Well, in Tibbin's collection, of course. The collector knows what's up, and he has got lots of retired animatronics in his collection that we may talk about later. Xenomorph, the Great Movie Ride. When Michael Eisner became CEO of Disney, he was determined to change the perception of Disneyland from a place for kids to a place for the whole family. That meant teens also. So he started greenlighting projects like Videopolis. But he knew that in order to bring Disney parks to the new era, he needed to infuse more of the film industry into them. So he made an unprecedented deal with none other than George Lucas to bring attractions like Captain EO, Star Tours, and Indiana Jones Adventure to the parks. Every one of these attractions was very successful. So in 1987, Imagineers started thinking of bringing another external property into the parks. Alien had come out in theaters in 1979, and the story was still considered a masterpiece. So Imagineers wanted to create an attraction that would bring guests into the world of Alien. And when Tomorrowland became a problem, they knew that it was an opportunity to present this idea to Eisner. And Eisner loved it. He thought the attraction would be a success because it would market itself, and Imagineers wouldn't waste time in coming up with a new story or creature for the attraction. But not everyone was happy with this attraction. Senior Imagineers thought that Ridley Scott's Alien had no place in Disney parks, so they went to George Lucas. Lucas agreed with them and offered to speak to Eisner on their behalf. So, after talking to Lucas, Eisner decided against using Alien, but told Imagineers that he was confident that they would come up with something just slightly less frightening to be the basis for their alien encounter. And that's how Imagineers came up with Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter. But they had already acquired the licensing right to the film, so what would they do with that? Well, the Great Movie Ride was the perfect attraction to use the Xenomorph in all its glory. The attraction opened on May 1st, 1989, along with Disney's MGM Studios. This dark ride, as we've said before, took us through a lot of scenes from iconic Hollywood movies. And in one of these scenes, we encountered the Nostromo, where we could find an animatronic Ellen Ripley holding a flamethrower and preparing to confront the alien. An alarm stating that the ship's emergency self-destruct system had been activated started sounding. And as the voice started to count down, the alien came out of the ceiling and attacked the front of the vehicle we were riding in. Then the creature attacked again, this time it emerging from the wall, attacking the back of the vehicle. Thankfully, we escaped the creature and went on to the Indiana Jones scene. Nobody knows for sure what happened to these animatronics after the Great Movie Ride was closed. But maybe now, after the Disney-Fox merger, we'll get to see more of the Xenomorph at all the Disney parks. Mickey Mouse and Friends. Mickey Mouse Review. When Walt Disney started developing animatronics, one of his dreams was having an attraction inside a theater, where many Disney characters would not only put on a show, but would also be sitting in boxes with the guests, heckling. This dream came true when Imagineers started planning attractions for Walt Disney World's 1971 opening. Mickey Mouse Revue was one of Magic Kingdom's opening day attractions, and while it didn't turn out to have the hecklers sitting with guests on the boxes, it did have lots of different Disney characters singing and dancing and putting on a fantastic show. The show had 73 different Disney characters and 81 animatronics. Some characters appeared more than once during the show. This was also the only attraction where we could find an animatronic Mickey Mouse. The show started with an 8-minute movie that showed us Mickey's career through the years, and the use of sound in his cartoons and films. The first part of the show is narrated by an animated soundtrack like the one we see in Fantasia. Then we could see Mickey and lots of other Disney characters dancing at Disneyland and welcoming us to the show. Next, we entered a theater with an 86-foot-long stage. The curtains opened and the show started. First, we could see Mickey Mouse, who came into view on a pedestal that rose from the floor. Then, the rest of the orchestra appeared. The orchestra was composed of 23 Disney characters from Mickey's friends, Minnie, Goofy, Daisy, and Pluto, to earlier characters like Dumbo, Timothy Mouse, the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, Gus Gus and Jock, and more recent movies at the time like Baloo, Kaa, King Louie, Winnie, Piglet, and Rabbit. The next scene showed the big bad wolf's shadow in a curtain before it opened and revealed the 3 little pigs, playing and singing their song for a bit before the curtain closed again and the next scene started. Then Snow White and the forest animals appeared, sitting on a wooded hillside. She sang "I'm Wishing" while the other animals listened. After she finished, another area of the stage came into view where we could find the 7 dwarves in their cottage, playing the silly song. They played for a while until the curtain closed again. To the far right of the stage, the curtain rose again, showing us Alice standing surrounded by the many oversized flowers. During the scene, Alice and the flowers sang All in the Golden Afternoon. This was one of the best scenes in the show. The colors, the movements, and everything else looked amazing. Next, a flying carpet rose from the left of the orchestra. On this carpet, we could find the 3 caballeros. Donald, Panchito, and Jose Carioca sang the 3 caballeros theme in a blaze of music and color. The coolest part about this scene is that each of the caballeros appeared and disappeared many times across the stage while singing their song. Just before the song ended, they appeared together again on the carpet and then disappeared. Suddenly, the fairy godmother and Cinderella appeared. The fairy godmother began to sing Bippity Boppity Boo and waved her wand around. A shower of twinkling lights appears and turns Cinderella into a princess. The rear curtain lowered and a projection of Cinderella and Prince Charming was seen, dancing and singing So This Is Love. When the projection finished, Brer Fox, Brer Bear, and Brer Rabbit appeared singing their theme song. Soon after, the whole cast appeared and sang together. Then, the entire stage went dark except for Mickey. The Mickey Mouse Alma Mater started playing, and then Mickey announced that the show was over. The show lasted 9.5 minutes, and it was amazing. But as time passed, fewer people were visiting it. In fact, the attraction was downgraded from an E to a D ticket attraction, which was pretty rare. When the Oriental Land Company began touring Disneyland and Disney World and choosing the attractions they wanted to have in the new Tokyo Disneyland Park, the Mickey Mouse Revue was on top of their list, and it was a lot less expensive to ship the original attraction overseas instead of recreating it. So, the attraction closed on October 1st, 1971, and reopened in Tokyo Disneyland on April 15th, 1983. The attraction was open for another 26 years until it sadly closed on May 25th, 2006, to be replaced by Mickey's PhilharMagic. We don't know what happened to every animatronic in the show, but we do know that the Mickey animatronic is safe and sound in the Walt Disney Archives. It was even on display in the 2011 D23 Expo Treasures of the Walt Disney Archives. We also know that in 2016, Disney quietly reused the 3 Caballeros animatronics for the Gran Fiesta Tour attraction at Epcot's Mexico Pavilion, as a replacement for the end scene that we could see previously on the screen. The Timekeeper and Nine-Eye. The Timekeeper. Le Visionarium opened at Euro Disney in 1992. This attraction was a 360 theater, just like Circle Vision 360 at Disneyland. But in this attraction, not only landscapes were used, but there was also a plot. This attraction was also a pioneer in using audio animatronics in conjunction with the 360 theater. There were also 2 more versions of the attraction that opened at other Disney parks. One was Visionarium, which opened on April 15, 1993 at Tokyo Disneyland, and the other was the Timekeeper, which opened on November 21, 1994 at the Magic Kingdom. The 3 versions of this attraction were nearly identical, except for the pre-show and some changes in the scenes. The attraction takes us to different time periods, with the Timekeeper and his assistant, Nine-Eye, a robot designed to use her 9 eyes to show us adventures from the past and future. The Timekeeper has created a machine that travels through time and takes us on a journey through historical events around Europe with encounters with characters like H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. It began with a pre-show where either the Timekeeper or 9 Eyes explained to us what we were about to see. They told us about the Timekeeper's newest invention, a time-traveling machine, and how 9 Eye would use it first and let us see this through her eyes. After the pre-show, we entered the theater where the Timekeeper, in animatronic form, welcomed and introduced us to his time machine. Suddenly, 9 Eye appears, demanding to be introduced to us. He tells us that she's the one that's going to help us record our journey through time. He turns on the machine and sends 9 Eye all the way back to the Jurassic era. Then the Ice Age, battles in Scotland, the Renaissance with Da Vinci, the musical beginnings of Mozart, and many other historical events. Then, the Timekeeper announces that it is time to go see H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. 9 Eye captures a discussion between Wells and Verne about the future and time travel. Verne says that time travel is impossible, but 9 Eye rebutes his claim and appeared to the author. He is surprised and tries to grab her. The Timekeeper sees this and tries to bring her back, but accidentally takes Jules Verne back too. The Timekeeper wants to send him back, but Verne says he wants to stay and know more about the future he speaks so much about. So, the Timekeeper agrees to take him to explore the present world. He takes him to see modern Paris, to the bottom of the sea, driving a race car, and even to the moon. After this adventure, the Timekeeper returns Verne to his time, where 9 Eye and Verne say goodbye, while Wells watches, confused. 9 Eye returns to the present, where she finds that the Timekeeper is not satisfied and wants to make a new demonstration by taking a group of people to the future. So, they go to the year 2189, where they find Wells and Verne driving the same flying car that Wells was holding in the past. The show ended as they were jetted off, and Timekeeper wished everyone well. The animatronics used for this attraction were pretty impressive. The Timekeeper had an incredible range of movements, and 9 Eye was accompanied by steam effects that simulated she was being propelled in the air by some kind of futuristic motor. We were also lucky to have a fantastic cast for this attraction, with Robin Williams, Rhea Perlman, and even Jeremy Irons. The attraction closed on September 1st, 2002 in Tokyo Disney, followed by Disneyland Paris on September 5th, 2004, and finally Magic Kingdom on February 26, 2006. This is pretty sad, but we're sure that the animatronics are stored safely at the Walt Disney Archives. Or they might be time traveling.
Okay, show's over. Get out of here, you little numbskulls. I love you. Thank you for coming today.
Food Wrapper, Food Rocks. Food Rocks replaced Kitchen Cabaret when the latter closed in 1994. The show opened on March 26, 1994, in the Land Pavilion at Epcot. It was themed as a benefit concert for good nutrition, where groups like the Peach Boys, Refrigerator Police, the Get the Point Sisters, and many more played for guests. The music was based on popular songs by well-known performers, with lyrics adapted to the topic of nutrition, like the Peach Boys singing Good Nutrition, or the Refrigerator Police singing Every Bite You Take. The whole benefit was hosted by Food Wrapper, who was voiced by real-life rapper Tone Loc.
Now here's your host, Food Wrapper. Hey, thanks everybody. You know, your food knows a thing or two about eating right.
The show was being interrupted all the time by the XS, a junk food heavy metal band that hated nutrition. The show had 12 musical numbers and lasted 12 minutes. The audio animatronics in the show were food items with human features that had very limited motion. Exaggerated lighting effects and high volume tried to hide the lack of animation. Actually, some of them looked like props. The most complex animatronic we could find in this attraction was Food Wrapper, and he was definitely in the top 3 favorites. He had a lot of personality and much more movement than the other animatronics in the attraction. This attraction closed down on January 3rd, 2004 to make way for Epcot's new attraction, Soarin'. The animatronics disappeared for a while until in 2006 when they started being sold by mouthsurplus.com and on eBay. They were stored in a warehouse until they were bought, so currently they are probably in the hands of Disney park collectors. Stitch, Stitch's Great Escape. We've talked about this attraction endlessly, and whether you like it or hate it, we can all agree that the Stitch animatronic was pretty impressive. This attraction replaced Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter on November 16, 2004. And it told the story of how the Galactic Federation Prisoner Teleport Center is looking for recruits to be guards. So, we enter the attraction and start our training. Suddenly, Captain Gantu interrupts us to let us know that a level 3 prisoner was being beamed into the center. So we need to get to the teleportation chamber to retrieve him. This prisoner is Stitch. The Stitch animatronic was an amazingly advanced figure created by Imagineers. It was actually the only thing that was worthwhile in this attraction. He walked around on his elevated platform, his arms moved around, his ears and spine spikes twitched, he used to blink, laugh, growl, and turn 360 degrees. He also used to spit and burp. This was one of the most hated Disney attractions ever. If you want to know some of the reasons why, check out our video. But that doesn't mean that Stitch's animatronic wasn't amazing. Sadly, the animatronic ended up completely dismantled and destroyed. We are not sure why it wasn't repurposed, but it's sad to see such a great animatronic gone. Sir and the Alien. Alien Encounter. Here we go again with Alien Encounter. We've talked about Skippy and Stitch, but we can't leave two of the most chilling animatronics ever behind. Sir and the Alien. We've talked about the history of the attraction and what it was about in parts 2 and 3 of this series, so if you want to check it out, click the upper right hand corner. As we've said before, one of the most terrifying aspects of this attraction was the pre-show, and this was achieved thanks to Sir, or Simulated Intelligence Robotics Model, voiced by Tim Curry. This character had a sinister and manipulative personality that showed contempt for the smaller species, and saw them only as test subjects. Case in point, a poor burned Skippy. The role of Sir was to demonstrate the power of the technology of excess technology, even covering the horrible actions that the technology produced. When Alien Encounter closed its doors, the animatronics of the pre-show were reused, and Sir was transformed into Sergeant. The design of the character changed drastically, and the personality changed a lot too. He was pretty active with visitors. He talked to them and provided directions and safety instructions. His comedic timidness made the pre-show more welcoming and set the attraction in a more lighthearted and family environment, unlike Sir in Alien Encounter. But when Stitch's Great Escape closed, the animatronic was dismantled and probably stored to be recycled for the future. But Sir was definitely not the creepiest part of the attraction. The alien, a vicious and man-eating monster from a distant planet that is accidentally sent to Earth through an alien teleporter, was a massive reptilian monster with thick scales lining its body. It had multiple small arms, each with long, sharp spikes at the ends, small legs on the bottom of its elongated body, with longer ones at the end, large horns and 2 giant insectoid wings protruding from its back, large pincers, yellow eyes, and a gaping maw with sharp teeth and fangs. The animatronic was terrifying. When the attraction closed, many people wondered what happened to this animatronic. It was rumored that it was repurposed as the lava monster from Journey Through the Center of the Earth, but that's not true. No one really knows what happened to the alien, so let's just hope that it is well taken care of in the Disney archives. Yago and Zazu, the Enchanted Tiki Room under new management. The Enchanted Tiki Room under new management opened on April 5th, 1998, replacing the Tropical Serenade. This was not a simple refurbishment, but a complete change from the original show. The main show opened exactly as it used to, with Jose being woken up to start the show and the birds singing. But as they kept singing, they were rudely interrupted by Yago, who told the birds that their show was boring and the people would not like it. He announced that Zazu and himself had purchased the Tiki Room, and warned the birds that they better not get too attached to their original show, because if they wanted to keep their jobs, they would have to get hip. Zazu gets scared and tells Yago that he should not disrespect the Tiki gods. Of course, Yago proceeds to insult them, and this results in Uoa, the Tiki goddess of disaster, getting mad. She appears, and after singing a song, she sends Yago flying and disappears. The wooden Tikis take over rapping and singing some more songs until Yago comes back burnt and on crutches. He proclaims the new Tiki Room under his management a rousing success, and decrees that the place will be a gold mine.
These gods were the greatest sight I've ever heard. This place is gonna be a gold mine.
He then calls Zazu his new friend, and they all proceed to sing their own rendition of Conga. This ride was a disaster, but it managed to last 13 years until January of 2011. The attraction was interrupted in the middle of a show. Guests had to be evacuated and were informed that a fire had started in the building. This fire damaged the main Yago beyond repair, and the sprinkler system damaged Zazu and Uoa. We'll probably never see Yago and Zazu again, but that's not the case for Uoa. When the attraction closed, the animatronic was reused for Trader Sam's Grog Grotto. The The animatronic is not as impressive as it once was, but it is nice that it could be kind of saved and reused. Bon Appetit, Kitchen Cabaret. Last video, we talked about how Food Rocks had replaced another attraction. This attraction was Kitchen Cabaret. Kitchen Cabaret was a 13-minute show that opened on October 1st, 1982, along with the rest of Epcot. It was located in the Land Pavilion. The attraction was all about healthy eating and food groups: meat, fruit and vegetables, dairy, and grains. The show had an introduction, 5 main acts, and the grand finale, and it was hosted by the beautiful Bon Appetit. During the introduction, Bonnie sang Mealtime Blues, a song that explained that it was time for her to prepare a meal, but she wasn't too excited about it.
Oh dear, it's time for another meal.
We could see her sitting on some cookbooks, looking tired and a little sad. The lights turned off as soon as her song ended and Act 1 began. During this act, Bonnie appeared again, wearing showgirl attire and singing Chase Those Mealtime Blues Away, with the kitchen crackpots, who are all animatronics of containers of ketchup, mayonnaise, mustard, etc. This Dixieland-type song was about good nutrition and balanced meals.
Thank you folks for coming to my kitchen, as I sing the praise of good nutrition.
Act 2 brought Mr. Dairy Goods, a singing milk carton, and his stars of the Milky Way, Miss Cheese, Miss Yogurt, and Miss Ice Cream. They all sing a song about how good dairy products are. Mr. Dairy Goods was the only animatronic that was used for both Kitchen Cabaret and Food Rocks.
Now you have met my beauties, I think you will agree. These girls have such style and taste that's
During Act 3, the Cereal Sisters, Oats, Rice, and Corn, sang a song about a boogie boogie bakery boy, a bugle-blowing bread slice that appeared when a kitchen cabinet was opened.
We're glad we kept his sound, like a boogie bakery boy, the toast of the town. Take it from the toast, bread and cereal, and a roast.
Then in Act 4 came Ham and Eggs, a vaudeville-style comic rendition of The Meat Group Can Help You Keep Strong, in which Mr. Ham and Mr. Eggs told jokes and sang a few short ditties. Mr. Ham got angry because Mr. Eggs kept telling corny jokes, and decided to split from the duo to join another protein group. The show came to an end with the cabaret finale, where Bonnie and the cast sing a melody of their songs. The whole cast came back out and said goodbye before the curtains closed. Kitchen Cabaret closed on January 3rd, 1994. Some of the audio animatronic figures were kept for a while in a storage area located underneath the Haunted Mansion at the Magic Kingdom. Mr. Dairy Goods was used for Food Rocks, as we said before, and Bon Appetit could be seen at Disney's Backstage Magic Tour, in the central shops port of the tour where she was stored. Sandy Eagle and Friends, America Sings. In 1974, Disney was preparing to celebrate the nation's bicentennial, and for this, the Imagineers developed a new attraction with a unique Disney style. The musical history of America being told by singing and dancing animals. This attraction was America Sings. It opened on June 29, 1974, replacing the Carousel of Progress, which had moved to the Magic Kingdom in 1973. The attraction had many acts. The first act introduced the audience to the show's host, Sam the Eagle, and his sidekick, Ollie Owl. After a rousing rendition of Yankee Doodle, the lights would dim as the theater begins to spin, moving the audience to the next stage, an introduction to the music of the Deep South, with such hits as Dixie and Down in the Valley. From there, onward to the Old West. Next was a trip to the 1890s, where barbershop quartet Geese serenaded with classics such as After the Ball is Over and Sweet Adeline. For the last represented musical era, guests ended up in modern times, headbanging with such rock and roll standards as Shake, Rattle and Roll, Hound Dog, and Joy to the World. Finally, the audience would meet up once again with their buddy Sam, who would wrap things up with a rousing encore of Yankee Doodle. The Enchanted Tiki Room and the Country Bear Jamboree had introduced the concept of the audio animatronic musical revue, but America Sings took the concept to a new level. These animatronics had an impressive range of motion, incredible voice work, and an excellent design made by Mark Davis. But the enthusiasm for the bicentennial passed, and America Sings did not fit with the Tomorrowland concept. So, after a run of almost 14 years, it closed in April 1988. What happened to the animatronics? Well, almost all of the critters took residence in Splash Mountain. They fit right in with the theme of the ride. This had to do with the fact that Mark Davis had designed both the characters for America Sings and Song of the South. But not all of the characters made their way into Critter Country. A couple of geese from America Sings stayed in Tomorrowland. These geese didn't even wait for America Sings to close before becoming long-necked robots for Star Tours. But what happened to Sam the Eagle and Ollie the Owl? Well, you've seen them as many times while riding Splash Mountain, but didn't know it. The first time we see Brer Fox, we see a recycled Sam animatronic. The same position and everything. The same happens with Ollie Owl. The first time we see Brer Rabbit, we are looking at a repurposed Ollie Owl animatronic.
Now that Splash Mountain has closed, we hope that many of these animatronics are recycled, and hopefully we'll still get to see them in Tiana's Bayou Adventure when it opens later this year.
The original Phantom Ravenswood, Phantom Manor. Phantom Manor was closed on December 2017 for an extensive refurbishment. It remained closed for over a year until this month when the refurbishment was done. There were many changes done to the ride, but today we're going to talk about one of the main ones. If you would like us to do a whole video talking about all the new changes that came to Phantom Manor, please let us know in the comments. Henry Ravenswood was always present as a character in the Phantom Manor. He is Melanie Ravenswood's father, and he was never happy with Melanie's suitors. Before the refurbishment, Melanie had fallen in love with a lowly miner who Henry did not approve of. But now, we discover that Henry Ravenswood was not happy with any of Melanie's suitors, and so, he decided to kill them all. First came Barry Claude, who was mauled by a bear. Then Captain Rowan D. Falls, who was sent over a waterfall in a rowboat. Next, Sawyer Botton, who was bifurcated with an industrial buzzsaw. And then Iggy Knight, who was blown to pieces with dynamite. Melanie's last suitor was a train engineer working in Thunder Mesa. Ravenswood did not approve of him at first, but then he found out that he wanted to take Melanie away from Thunder Mesa, became furious, and vowed he would do anything to prevent it. But before he could do anything about it, he and his wife were killed in an earthquake. And that's how Henry Ravenswood became the Phantom. We see the Phantom many times during the ride, but there are two main Phantom animatronics. The first one is found just outside the bride's boudoir. This animatronic didn't change much, except for the glowing red eyes. And then, just before the ride ends, the Phantom is seen again. Before the refurbishment, this animatronic was a kind of grinning, decaying, green-skinned corpse that had lost any kind of humanity he may have had before. His clothes were torn and he was laughing uncontrollably. Now, this animatronic is completely changed. This new Phantom looks just like the one we see outside of Melanie's room. He can also be seen laughing maniacally and gesturing to an open coffin. Which Phantom do you like best? The old or the new one? Let us know in the comments. World of Motion. World of Motion.
The World of Motion is enclosed in stainless steel and tells the story of transportation, past, present, and future.
World of Motion was an opening day attraction at Epcot in Walt Disney World, and it was a former tenant of the Transportation Pavilion. This attraction was filled with animatronics. World of Motion was the attraction that contained more animatronics of any attraction ever made by Disney. It had over 150 animatronic figures in 22 scenes. Not even Pirates of the Caribbean or the Haunted Mansion have these many animatronics. The attraction focused on the importance of transportation through the different periods of humanity. It began during the Stone Age, where we could see the first method of transportation, foot power. Then we get to see the next method, water transportation, where we could see people traveling by boat. Next we could see animatronics traveling on animals, followed by the invention of the wheel. This took us to the wheel factory and into a part called Trade and Commerce, where we were shown many useful ways of using the wheel. Next came the ship age, followed by the flight age where we could find Leonardo da Vinci and a man flying in a hot air balloon. We also saw the evolution of steam vehicles, from the Mississippi riverboat to the steam locomotive. In the next scene, we could find the first traffic jam in the world, followed by lots of scenes of the 1940s and 1950s, until we got to the speed tunnels. These tunnels took us to the center core of the amazing city of the future. After the Omnimover ride was ended, we got out of the vehicles and into the Trans Center, which was full of exhibits and showed about transportation and the things surrounding it, and took an Intervention-style feel to all of it. Here we could find the ever-popular show The Bird and the Robot, which we'll talk about in Part 6. What happened at this attraction? Well, GM was in a bit of a slump, and World of Motion had lost some popularity. So, GM requested that Disney create a new attraction in its place, and wanting to promote their cars, they asked that the new attraction would focus only on cars. On January 12, 1996, World of Motion closed its doors forever to make way for a whole new attraction focused entirely on cars.
Test Track, new at Epcot. See if you've got what it takes.
Some of the World of Motion figures have been reincarnated as characters in Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean attraction, but later removed when they added Jack Sparrow to the ride in 2006. Chicken figures from the attraction's traffic jam scene were featured in Goofy's Barnstormer at Mickey's Toontown Fair in the Magic Kingdom. Other props from the World of Motion, like the Sea Serpent, were at Disney California Adventure in the back corner of Hollywood Pictures backlot, near the restrooms for the Hyperion Theater. Then sometime between 2004 and 2006, they did some changes and our friend was relocated next to the backlot stage, and just when we thought it had found its final resting place, along came the Electronic Arena in October 2010. And another change of out of props, and it was gone. The last known location of the Sea Serpent was in a warehouse near Disneyland. The weirdest tribute reuse of a World of Motion figure is that one of them was supposedly remade into the Ellen figure for Ellen's Energy Adventure. In 2012, Test Track was refurbished and reopened, and this version of the ride contains many references to World of Motion. We can find many hidden World of Motion logos and a sign on the outside of the track that reads FN2BFRE, an abbreviation of the phrase "fun to be free," the name of the original ride's theme song. Big Al, the Country Bear Jamboree. The Country Bear Jamboree opened at Magic Kingdom in 1971 and Disneyland in 1972. The attraction is a stage show with audio animatronic figures. Most of the characters are bears who perform country music. Guests begin their stay with the bears in the stage lobby, a large room with show photos and a carpeted entrance to the theater. The lobby was lined with oddly shaped doors, each perfectly sized for the different stars of the show. Once guests took their seats in the theater, Master of Ceremonies Henry greeted the audience and invited them to enjoy the Jamboree. The show featured a number of different songs, performed by the bears and their friends, and ended with an ensemble song, encouraging the audience to come and visit again. Today, we'll talk about one of the fans' most loved animatronics, Big Al. Big Al is the fattest bear. He is gray with a light gray belly, though his fur was changed to brown in 2012 in the Florida version of the show, and wears a tan hat and a red vest. He plays an always out-of-tune guitar and is voiced by Tex Ritter from his hit album, Blood on the Saddle. Al's act was particularly funny because he didn't follow the show's rhythm at all. When his number started, the curtain opened, and with an out-of-tune voice and a terrible medley, he started playing his peculiar song. His act lasted for about 50 seconds until he is interrupted by Henry singing the Ballad of Davy Crockett. But of course, Big Al couldn't let this happen, and he reappears on the left stage, once again singing Blood on the Saddle. As Henry tells Big Al to stop, Sammy begins to realize the situation is hopeless. He tells Henry that they're going to need help. Henry cues the gang, and all the other bears, except Ernest and Trixie, appear on stage. Together, they sing the show's finale, Ol' Slewfoot. As the cast performs, Big Al, undaunted by their singing, continues to sing Blood on the Saddle. After the song, the stage gets dark, and a crashing noise comes from Big Al's stage. After the finale, Henry tells guests to be sure to come again, as a cast member ushers guests out. Henry, Sammy, Buck, Melvin, and Buck sing one last song, Come Again. The show started becoming less and less popular at Disneyland, and due to this fact, Disney decided to close it and replace it with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh almost 30 years after it opened. When the ride closed, some of these animatronics were taken to the Walt Disney Archives. Others were taken to the Magic Kingdom so their parts could be used as replacements for the animatronics there. And one set of the charming mounted heads remained in Disneyland. We've talked about this before in our Abandoned Animatronics video. If you want to watch it, be sure to click here. It's been rumored that the Big Al animatronic was recycled and became Oogie Boogie in the Haunted Mansion holiday. What do you think? Baby Earth Meet and Greet. We've talked about many animatronics in the past. Some of them are in rides and attractions, others in queues. But in this case, the animatronic that we're going to talk about was in neither. Back in 2012, it was announced that a new meet and greet would come to Disney's Hollywood Studios. Star-Lord and Baby Groot would come and meet guests to promote their new movie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, replacing Moana, who was currently meeting guests in that same spot. Groot was a tiny animatronic and was standing on top of a computer console, ready to plug in a sound system and occasionally talking to Star-Lord. His body moved around and his face was able to make a lot of different expressions that matched the tone of his voice. The animatronic was really charming, and seeing him interact with Star-Lord was amazing. Sadly, it was announced that this meet and greet would end, and the last day for this fun duo was September 29, 2018. They were replaced by Mike and Sully. But who knows? Maybe we'll get to see them again soon, but this time they'll be meeting guests at Epcot. Hopper, It's Tough to Be a Bug. It's Tough to Be a Bug opened in Disney's Animal Kingdom in 1998, followed by a second version in Disney's California Adventure in 2001. This supposedly kid-friendly show features Flick and many other insects. Flick has made us honorary bugs just long enough for him and his pals to show off a few insect survival skills, and a rousing musical number to remind us just how important bugs are in the world. Everything is going great until Hopper arrives. The 9-foot-tall 4-armed grasshopper appears out of nowhere, bursting onto the stage in an explosion of smoke. With his one glassy eye, spindly limbs, and a disturbing snake-like rattle from his sputtering wings, the animatronic scolds the audience for the horrific way humans treat the insect kingdom. He is pretty frightening, but the worst part of the show is when Hopper calls his insect friends to attack guests. They show movie clips from old monster movies that feature giant bugs. They attempt to flatten the audience using a giant fly swatter. Several hornets sting the audience using pneumatic pistons in the seats. And lots of black widow spiders go up and down within inches of guests' reach. Thankfully, in the end, a chameleon tries to eat Hopper, and he gets scared, so he retreats. This show closed permanently in California Adventure on March 19, 2018, when a Bugs Land closed to make way for a Marvel-themed land. Thankfully, we can still find it at Disney's Animal Kingdom.
But not for long, because on September 9th, 2023, for Destination D23, it was announced that a new Zootopia attraction will replace the show at Animal Kingdom pretty soon.
RX-24, or Captain Rex, Star Tours. The original Star Tours was advertised as the ultimate Star Wars adventure, where you were supposed to be a space tourist about to visit the Force Moon of Endor via the Star Tours travel agency. The captain of our Star Speeder was the infamous RX-24, or Rex. He is an RX series pilot droid who works for the Star Tours travel company, where he pilots a Star Speeder 3000 spacecraft. Rex is no ordinary pilot. Thanks to his abilities, we got to enjoy a crazy, fun ride through the maintenance room, an asteroid field, a battle against the Empire, and even the destruction of the third Death Star. Rex had 3 clawed arms, which he used to manipulate starship controls. His photoreceptors were blue unless illuminated, which made them shine with white light. The broader sections of his chassis were furnished metal trimmed with gold and purple. Between these were narrower sections in black. Rex clawed fingers, upper and interior facial plating, and vocabulator were also gold. Rex was brought to life by Paul Rubens, who made Rex an important and loved character from Disney parks, thanks to his charismatic and fun personality. On August 14, 2010, Walt Disney World hosted The Last Tour to Endor, event exclusively for Celebration 5 attendees. The event included George Lucas, character appearances, and the Star Tours shutdown ceremony. That was a live show with Star Wars characters accumulating in the official power down of the original Disney World Star Tours attraction. The ride was still open after the shutdown ceremony until September 7, 2010, when the attraction held its final flight to Endor, exclusive to D23 members. Star Tours was replaced by Star Tours The Adventure Continues. This new adventure takes us to many different places. It has more than 54 different combinations that take us to different planets on each and every ride. So you're unlikely to get the exact same ride twice in one visit. The attraction was also changed to ultra clear 3D. Sadly, we lost Rex as captain in this refurbishment, and we can now find C-3PO. But we can still find Rex in the queue. Look in the Droid Custom section. Here you can find Rex being returned to the manufacturer to correct some defects, and thankfully, this is not the end for Rex. After he was returned to the manufacturer and repaired, Rex crashed in one of his trips and ended up in Batu, where he was reprogrammed into a DJ by Mubo at the Droid Depot, and his appearance was slightly altered. Thereafter, Mubo gave the droid to Ogagara to pay off a debt, and DJ Rex started providing the musical entertainment inside Oga's cantina. Smart 1, Communicore. Before Innoventions replaced it, Communicore was the place to visit if you wanted to take a look at the future. Here you could explore many hands-on exhibits using the new exciting touchscreen technology, and you could also have a chat with Smart 1. Who was Smart 1, you may ask? Well, he was an interactive audio animatronic robot that guests could talk to through a telephone.
How could I skip it in July? Don't know that it's play. Okay, so the I'm over it. I'll use clear voice. Just feels bad. Hey, button, dude. You're done.
He served as a great demonstration of the newest voice recognition technology, allowing him to interact with guests by conducting some simple question and answer games. These fun interactive trivia games made Smart 1 stand out among all the other exhibitions that Communicore offered guests. After all, it's not every day that you can talk to a cute little robot. After a while, in an effort to keep Epcot updated, Communicore was closed and it became Innoventions, a more eccentric, wild, and corporate-driven take on a science and technology pavilion. We lost Smart One in the process, but he was not entirely retired. He was relocated to the Concourse Steakhouse at Disney's Contemporary Resort, where he was renamed X1846 and reprogrammed to serve as an interactive greeter that could also serve drinks. Sadly, in 2000, he suffered an accidental fall that caused minor damage, and this led to some technical malfunctions, so he was retired and sold. Electronic, Innoventions West.
Innoventions is a kind of a word that combines invention and innovation.
Since it was created, Innoventions tried to replicate what once was the World's Fair.
150 years, people have flocked to World's Fairs and expositions to get their first glimpse of new technology.
And show people the latest technology. The idea was that brands like AT&T, GE, GM, Motorola, and more would bring exhibitions where they would show their newest products, and with this, show guests how technology kept and would keep changing in the years to come. Innoventions opened in 1994 at Walt Disney World, replacing the now outdated Communicore. It was divided into two sections, East and West. In the East section, we could find Apple, General Electric, General Motors, and other exhibitions. But today we'll be focusing on the West section, which was the most popular among guests because here we could find exhibitions like the Sega one, where we could take a look at the future of video games, or the Electronics exhibition, where we could find the latest gadgets, some of which were not even being sold yet. The main and most impressive attraction of this exhibition was Electronic. He was one of the most advanced animatronics at that time. Imagineers decided not to use any type of covering for this animatronic.
A character put together in a way most people have never seen it, without the skin, so that you can see all of the inner workings and mechanics that make it happen, the thousands of moving parts that are generally not seen by the public, in an exciting and dynamic environment that I think most people will find memorable.
Before the show began, we could see that Electronic was in its off position, and in a few seconds, his sequence started and the show began. Alec introduced himself and welcomed us. There were also 3 other animatronic heads that joined him, and they all interacted with each other during the show. The whole presentation was based on these animatronics and how they were the most advanced in the world, and they demonstrated this with some gags and musical acts. The show ended when Alec said goodbye with a glitch and went back to his off position. Electronic was voiced by Bill Farmer, who voices Goofy. This made the character more friendly to guests who could be scared of it at first. In 1999, Innoventions had a major renovation for the park's Millennium Celebration and added the subtitle, The Road to Tomorrow. This made it much easier to walk through because the road helped guests to have a more structured way of seeing every exhibition available. During this renovation, Electronic was retired and recycled so he could become Tom Morrow at Disneyland, where Innoventions opened in 1998. We've talked about him before, so if you want to learn more about it, click here. Nowadays, he hangs out at the Collector's Fortress, or at least his head does. Otto, 2009's D23. Otto was the first autonomous animatronic. He was created so he could be presented in 2009's D23. Autonomatronics technology is different from audio animatronics technology. Audio animatronics technology repeats a pre-programmed show over and over again. Autonomatronics technology is driven by sophisticated cameras and sensors, giving Otto the ability to make choices about what to say and do. He could see, listen, and interpret emotions thanks to a sophisticated facial recognition system. Automatronics know when you enter and leave a room and how you react to it. This technology was first shown at the D23 Expo in 2009. The demonstration consisted of showing Otto and how the latest technology that was used to make him worked. The hosts of this presentation were GLaDOS. No, not that GLaDOS.
Oh, it's you.
You know her?
It's been a long time.
But an animatronic parrot and Otto. At the beginning of the presentation, Otto started feeling a bit insecure because of all the people that were there. But GLaDOS kept encouraging him and helping him regain his confidence. He asked Otto to introduce himself and demonstrate his abilities. He asked Otto if he thinks the people are enjoying themselves. When Otto asked how he could know that, GLaDOS told him to take a look and see if they were smiling. So Otto starts looking for smiling faces, and after he recognizes them, he starts regaining his confidence. Next, GLaDOS tells Otto to demonstrate his hearing abilities, so he chose a member of the public as a volunteer and asked them their name and favorite color. Using a microphone, Otto repeated the volunteer's name and favorite color, changing his bow tie's color. During the last part of the presentation, Otto took a picture of the audience and then showed it to everyone. Sadly, Otto was never used in any Disney park ride or attraction, and he was retired after the D23 Expo. But he was the first autonomatronic created, and thanks to him, some other autonomatronics made their way to the Disney parks. No one knows the reason why Disney hasn't used this technology more until now. But we do know that Mr. Lincoln was changed to an autonomatronic in 2009, and we can find 3 of these in the Collector's Fortress. As soon as we enter the building, there are 3 creatures named Vilus. These creatures are equipped with sensors and cameras that allow them to react in a different and autonomous way to each guest. Maybe we'll get to see more autonomatronics in the future. Harold, Matterhorn bobsleds. The Matterhorn bobsleds opened 60 years ago on June 14th. It was the first tubular steel coaster in the world. For many years, the interior of the ride was filled with poles, supports, and metal structures. There were many holes in its exterior so the bobsleds could exit and re-enter the mountain. But the ride was not themed at all. The infrastructure was disguised as rock, and that was it. Then, almost 20 years later in 1978, the ride received its first major refurbishment, and the interior of the mountain was filled in. Imagineers made a number of small icy caves and tunnels, but the biggest addition to the ride was Harold. The intimidating abominable snowman took up residence inside the mountain as an audio animatronic figure and glowing red eyes encountered throughout the journey. According to the Disney Mountains, Imagineering at its peak, plans existed for Harold to be installed as part of the original 1959 attraction, but budget crunches and scheduling deadlines led the concept to be shelved for a while. Harold was added 3 times throughout the ride in the form of 3 animatronic figures. The first is visible from both tracks at the point where they divide to take separate paths, while the other 2 are visible only from their respective tracks. The Matterhorn was refurbished a few times after that in 1992 when the Skyway closed, and the holes in the Matterhorn were partially filled, or the glimmering crystals and the Wells Expedition crate at the beginning of the ride were added, or in 2012, when it closed for a 6-month refurbishment which added a new outside fixture of the mountains and new trains with different restraints. But then, in 2015, for Disneyland's 60th anniversary, Harold was replaced with an even angrier and more lifelike version.
Here at the Matterhorn, we've added new animatronic snowmen and some other special effects scenes, and we're thinking that this will be a great addition, especially that it's coinciding with the Diamond Celebration at the Disneyland Resort.
This new version is a big improvement from the classic Yeti figure. And of course, during this refurbishment, we lost the original Harold. He was nowhere to be seen for a while, but then, on May 27, 2017, Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout opened. In this ride, we enter the Collector's Fortress, and we can see the huge collection of artifacts that he has. And surprisingly, the original Harold is one of them. He can be seen just before you enter the ride in the queue. Various animatronics. Meet the World. Meet the World was one of the opening day attractions at Tokyo Disneyland in 1983. Located in Tomorrowland, Meet the World was an 18-minute chronicle of Japan's history of diplomacy and trade with other countries. Officially, it invited you to explore Japan's heritage on an incredible time travel adventure. The format was a rotating circular theater, similar to Carousel of Progress in Disney World. There were 4 parts to the show, and after each part, the seating area would slowly rotate 90 degrees to point the audience in the direction of the next stage. The guide was an animated talking crane who led 2 curious children from Yokohama on a time travel journey, complete with representations of prominent Japanese and Western figures from the history books. She took them to explore the ancient Jomon people and the difficult relationship they encountered with the sea and the land. Then to the area of Prince Shotoku, and his efforts to meet the world. She also took them to explore Tanegashima, where Portuguese traders met with locals, introducing Japan to trade opportunities as well as the outside world. They also entered Japan's dark days, but the crane reassured the 2 children that those days have ended, and that Japan now led the way of today. A final montage of Japan's modern accomplishments brought the show to a close, as the children and the crane soared to the skies on a hot air balloon. The attraction had over 30 animatronic figures, 9 70mm projections, and 15 large pieces of show action equipment. The Meet the World song was written by the Sherman Brothers. The attraction was designed by WED Enterprises Imagineer Claude Coates. The figures were sculpted by Blaine Gibson, with the exception of the 3 Meiji figures, who were sculpted in Glendale by a Japanese sculptor from Toho Studios in Tokyo. But then, on June 30th, 2002, the attraction closed forever to be replaced by Monsters Inc. Ride and Go Seek, and these animatronics were retired forever. Nobody knows what happened to them, but we hope these pieces of history are safe and sound at the Disney archives. The Bride, the Haunted Mansion. Since the beginning, the Haunted Mansion has been a mix of stories and concepts that work together perfectly. Every story and character in this ride had been created by the most famous Imagineers in Disney history. With the pass of time, the mansion had small and big changes, but one of the characters that has suffered the most changes is the Bride. The first sketch of the Bride was created by Ken Anderson, who based it on the picture of the Brown Lady of Raymond Hall. This picture was taken in 1936 and is one of the most famous ghost pictures of all time. After a while, when Mark Davis took over the project, he changed Anderson's concept, giving the character a clearer style, a darker face, and a cat. But in 1968, he decided to change his own concept and change the cat for a dog and the bride's face to a complete black space with shiny red eyes. He called this new concept Beating Heart. Then, when he was sculpting the character, he changed her again and gave her a kind of Grim Reaper style. The problem with this new design was that the bride didn't look like a bride at all, and the idea of a bride had been in the Haunted Mansion plan since the beginning. So Davis decided to go back to his ghostly bride design. When Haunted Mansion opened in 1969, the Beating Heart Bride was located where we can now see the piano ghost. She was only there for a month or two, because when the Hatbox Ghost was removed, she was changed to his old spot. But the bride not only changed her whereabouts, she also suffered some major design changes. Her face and eyes were changed many times, and so was her dress. In 2006, the attic scene received a major overhaul, and with this change, the Beating Heart Bride was retired and Constance was in her place. What happened to the Beating Heart Bride? Well, she was safely taken to the Disney Archives, and was even on display in the Treasures of Walt Disney Archives exhibit, presented by D23, at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Museum and Library from July 6, 2012 to April 2013. Tomorrow 2.0, Innoventions Road to Tomorrow.
Well, right now I'm coming to you from Epcot, but how did I get here? Let's find out!
In 1999, Innoventions had a major renovation for the park's Millennium Celebration and added the subtitle, The Road to Tomorrow. This new renovation made sure that Innoventions would still be innovative, having the new Millennium's latest technology. It also made it much easier to walk through because the road helped guests to have a more structured way of seeing every exhibition available. With this new renovation also came new sponsors, exhibitions, and a new mascot. Tomorrow 2.0 was a small animatronic that served as an ambassador and self-proclaimed gatekeeper of Innoventions, The Road to Tomorrow. This animatronic used to interact with guests and gave them lots of facts and trivia. He was also the host of the Disney Channel segment, Imagineer That.
Ever wonder how Disney dreams become reality? It's something called Imagineering. Disney presents Imagineer That with Tomorrow 2.0. Any questions?
Where he would answer questions about Imagineering and explain how many Disney park attractions were created. In 2007, renovations started for Innoventions, and by 2008, Tom Morrow was gone. Nobody knew what had happened to him until 2011's D23, when Tom Morrow returned. But this time, he had a new role. He became the Great Destiny. For this experience, the old animatronic was recycled and given new technology so that the Great Destiny was able to interact personally to people's reactions. It might look like a cast member was behind the scenes controlling the animatronic, but that was not the case. A new complicated software allowed the animatronic to react to the guest's facial expressions. After this, Tom Morrow disappeared again until 2013, where he could be seen in an exhibition at the Odyssey Passholder Center. In this exhibition, people could see many props from different attractions, like Figment from Journey into Imagination, and of course, Tom Morrow 2.0. But then, in 2017, Tom Morrow 2.0 appeared to be on sale on ThemeParkConnection.com. Nobody knows what happened to him after that. He's probably safe and sound in a collector's living room. Jason, the Living Seas. When the Living Seas opened back in 1986, it opened as the biggest oceanic environment ever created by humans. It was nicknamed the 6th biggest ocean in the world because of its size.
1.5 million gallons of water. Enough water to give everyone watching this program a 10-ounce drink and still have enough left over to quench the thirst of Albany, New York.
This pavilion was created to give people a better understanding of our relationships with the ocean and the part they will play in our future. The Living Seas had a pre-show, a motion picture, a short ride, and the Sea Base Alpha exhibits, which we're going to focus on today. The attraction started with a short movie called The Sea that showed how the Earth went from a volcanic planet to a world of oceans. After this, guests were taken into an elevator that, using sound effects and movements in the walls, gave the impression that they were being taken to the bottom of the ocean. Then guests waited in a queue to board the Sea Cabs, a type of omnimover that took them through the coral reef to the Sea Base Alpha.
And welcome to Sea Base Alpha. You know, the challenge of the sea is an adventure that man has wanted to undertake since the earliest days of diving tubes, and long before Leonardo da Vinci designed the first known underwater breathing devices.
Sea Base Alpha was divided into 2 levels and had 9 exhibits or modules. In the first level, Module 1D was found. This module was dedicated to undersea exploration and had the Gym suit, which was an atmospheric diving suit used to explore the depths of the sea. We could find one full suit and another 2 that were cut in half, so that guests could use it to try and turn an arrow, push a lever, turn a wheel, and shift a gear using the counterbalance manipulator hands. It was also in this module that we could find our star animatronic, Jason. Inspired by Jason Jr., the robot who explored the wreck of the RMS Titanic in 1986 and sadly got lost in the sea, Jason used to demonstrate to guests how robots like him worked and were operated by scientists. He also explained how just a small percentage of the ocean had been explored, and thanks to robots, special suits, and submarines, it was now easier to explore and learn more about this unknown area. But then, Disney began to re-theme the Living Seas into a new pavilion based on the recently released Pixar film, Finding Nemo. The majority of the transformation began with the exterior elements, but in January 2004, the interior began to change as well. It started with the opening of Turtle Talk with Crush, where we could once find Module C. The show became such a great success that it needed a bigger area.
Yes. Squirt! So give me some Finn. Noggin. Yeah.
So in 2005, the pavilion closed to be transformed into the Seas with Nemo and Friends. Sea Base Alpha had been re-themed to Finding Nemo, and the entire original pre-show area was in the process of being rebuilt. Decor and signage were replaced, and once themed to Finding Nemo replaced scientific displays. Turtle Talk with Crush remained as popular as it was before the transformation, and the ride suffered lots of changes. The Sea Cabs were transformed into clammobiles, the track was lengthened by 280 feet, and a new projection system was added in many parts of the ride. By October 2006, the transformation was done, and the Living Seas was part of the past. It now became the first Epcot pavilion to be based on the Disney animated movie property. Nobody knows for sure where Jason is right now, but we can only hope that he's not lost at sea like his namesake, Jason Jr. Starnack, Innoventions West. We've talked about Innoventions before, how it wanted to replicate what once was the World's Fair and show people the latest technology. Innoventions opened in 1994 at Walt Disney World, replacing the now outdated Communicore. It was divided into 2 sections, East and West. In the West section, we could find popular exhibitions like the Sega one, where we could take a look at the future of video games, or the Electronics exhibition, where we could find the latest gadgets, some of which were not even being sold yet. Here's where we could find another beloved retired animatronic, Alectronic, who we've talked about in the last retired animatronics video. And then in the East section, we could find Apple, General Electric, General Motors, and other exhibitions. Among these other exhibitions was Motorola. Motorola didn't want to stay behind in the tech race, so they designed an exhibition called Communications Dream Forum. And this exhibition had a special host named Starnack.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I am the great Starnack, and I can see into the future. But more about that in the future, because right now I'd like to welcome you to the Dream Forum.
Starnack was a pretty advanced animatronic that had a crystal ball where he could see the future. He used to check his crystal ball to see the future of technology and telecommunications. And of course, he also told people how Motorola would be a fundamental part of future technology. He was a tall metallic robot, which had the Motorola logo on the side. And just as Alectronic, he was amazingly advanced. He had a pretty articulated body, which allowed him to move all the way to the tips of his fingers with flowing motions. As time passed, this exhibition continued growing, adding interactive experiences and demonstrations of Motorola's newest cell phone models, until it closed on May 1st, 2003. Sadly, nobody knows for sure what became of Starnak, but we can only hope that he is stored safely or that he has been recycled and put to good use. The Bird and the Robot, World of Motion. We've talked about World of Motion before. This attraction was sponsored by General Motors and was filled with animatronics. It focused on the importance of transportation through different periods of humanity and took guests through 22 scenes where they could see different types of transportation. After the ride ended, guests got out of their vehicle and into the Trans Center. Here, guests could find exhibits that showed all about transportation and the things surrounding it, and it was here that we could see the ever-popular show, The Bird and the Robot. The Bird and the Robot was an audio animatronics vaudeville show, starring a toucan named Bird, who was originally built for Tokyo Disneyland's Tiki Room, and an assembly line robot named Tiger. During this show, Bird and Tiger entertain guests with many acts. Bird has Tiger do some tricks, like playing dead and fetching a donut. But when Tiger doesn't bring back a donut, Bird threatens to send him back to GM, where he would have to work as an assembly line robot. A video display in the background showed other car manufacturing robots working in GM plants. And the finale had Tiger conducting the Detroit Phil Robotic Orchestra, which was a series of clips of car manufacturing robots set to music. The show was considered one of the best shows in Future World, but sadly, GM was in a bit of a slump, and World of Motion had lost some popularity. So, GM requested that Disney create a new attraction in its place. And wanting to promote their cars, they asked that the new attraction would focus only on cars. On January 12, 1996, World of Motion closed its doors forever to make way for Test Track. Mr. Tom Morrow, Mr. Johnson. Flight to the Moon, Mission to Mars.
Popular attraction here is our simulated rocket trip around the moon. After entering the Disneyland spaceport, visitors may experience the thrills that space travelers of the future will encounter when rocket trips to the moon become a daily routine.
Rocket to the Moon opened at Disneyland in 1955 as a simulated trip to the moon. In 1967, with the Apollo program underway, astronauts traveling to the moon was likely to happen soon. So the attraction received a name change to Flight to the Moon when the new Tomorrowland opened that same year.
When the 1960s arrived, the world of today began to catch up with Disneyland's world of tomorrow. So Walt Disney and our Imagineering department began to create an all-new Tomorrowland. And here it is today in Disneyland.
That same attraction opened on December 24th, 1971 at Walt Disney World. This new attraction had 9 new animatronics, and the leader of these animatronics was Mr. Tom Morrow. This was the first time that a character with the name of Tom Morrow appeared at any Disney park, but as we know it, it wouldn't be the last. Mr. Tom Morrow used to be a part of the attraction's pre-show, where he told guests all about mission control. He interacted with a cast member that asked him about the mission and introduced guests to the vehicle they were about to board to take them to the moon. But the attraction had the same problem that Tomorrowland. It became outdated because in 1969, people had already been to the moon, so it desperately needed a renovation. In 1975, both Disneyland and Disney World's Flight to the Moon were replaced by Mission to Mars. Mission to Mars was very similar to Flight to the Moon. In fact, many people think that it was the same attraction. There were some changes, of course, but one of the biggest changes to the attraction was Mr. Tom Morrow. You see, Mr. Tom Morrow also became kind of outdated like his attraction before, so to replace him, Disney brought in Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Welcome to Mission Control, space travelers. The first part of your trip to Mars today will be directed from this room, and so will your landing when you return to Earth.
Mr. Johnson had the same voice as Mr. Tom Morrow, but he was much more modern. Instead of a button-down shirt and necktie, he rocked a red turtleneck sweater beneath his lab coat. He also had a luxuriant head of hair and a mustache. Mission to Mars closed its doors in 1992 at Disneyland and 1993 at Disney World. Disneyland's Mission to Mars was closed so that it could make way for the new Tomorrowland project that Michael Eisner had planned. It was supposed to be replaced by Alien Encounter, but sadly, as we've said many times, this Tomorrowland 2055 project was cancelled, and instead, Red Rocket's Pizza Port opened in 1998 where Mission to Mars used to be. Disney World didn't have the same problem as Disneyland, and in 1995, Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter opened, replacing Mission to Mars. After a while, Alien Encounter was closed and replaced by Stitch's Great Escape. For both of these attractions, the pre-shows, main shows, and decor were changed, but these attractions all use the same infrastructure with a single stand-up pre-show area. So of course, with these new changes came new animatronics, and with the new animatronics, the old ones were retired. Lucky the Dinosaur. One of the most ambitious innovations that Imagineering has had was the Living Characters Initiative. This initiative gave life to Lucky the dinosaur, the first ever animatronic to walk independently. Up until that moment, animatronics could sing, talk, move, and duel with swords, but they could not walk. After 5 long years of working, Imagineers created this amazing animatronic. Lucky walks on 2 legs and stands approximately 9 feet tall and 12 feet long, and pulls a cart full of flowers, which powers the animatronic. He loves people and balloons, and signs autographs. His signature is a 4-leaf clover. Lucky can laugh, sneeze, snort, grin, bray, bellow, and occasionally gets hiccups, and is led by Chandler, the dinosaur handler. His first appearance was at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles on August 28, 2003. A few days later, he visited Disney's California Adventure Park. Since Lucky was only playtesting, he returned to his home at Walt Disney Imagineering. His official debut was in 2005 when he was taken to Animal Kingdom. After a while, he was taken to Hong Kong Disneyland. As of August 2015, Lucky is at his final home of Walt Disney Imagineering. He is still running as he meets visitors who come with the Backstage Magic Tour from Adventures by Disney.
If you've made it this far, congratulations. You're a big fan of animatronics, and you have my total respect. Thank you for being part of this channel. If you appreciate our efforts, please consider visiting our Patreon, leaving a super thanks, or checking out our merchandise. It's the best way to support the channel. See you next week.